Hello and welcome to another episode of Mysteries with a History, where I'll take you on a wild ride into the unknown, the strange, and the mysterious. Like you, I have questions, and like you, I want answers. There's more to this world than most think or believe. Mysteries that stretch back into murky epochs of time, that hint of other realms, other worlds, and other intelligences. We're on this journey together. With each episode, we will peel away the layers to look for the truth. Now, life after death is a topic that every single individual will contemplate during their lives, whether they follow a religion or not. And aside from a near death experience, nothing else can provoke such thoughts like an encounter with the supernatural, such as ghosts. So, in this episode, we will be looking into some of the most haunted locations around the world, places where people regularly encounter ghosts or poltergeist activity. To help me with today's show, I have Puck the Puckwudgie, and let me bring in my special co-host, Jimmy Church of Faded Black Radio. Jimmy, how's it going?
Hey!
How's it going, my friend?
It's going so good. I am cold, I'm freezing, and I'm about to get my blood warmed up with some haunted stuff.
That's how you got to do it.
Yeah. It's going to be amazing. It was so funny. I'm going to let everybody know another great topic this week. I'll find out in a second. Cristina just kind of told us, and she tweeted out. But anyway, hold your mug up again. Take another sip. Cristina, this is what she did to me right before the show. My headphones are sitting over there in the corner, just nestled in the dark, and I'm working. And she just sneaks in, "Hey, Jimmy," out of my headphones. I jump out of my skin. I'm doing all this haunted research, petrified. And I look over and Christina's blowing in her coffee because it's so hot. What's going on? I was like, man.
Hey, Jimmy.
Yeah, exactly. And she watched me jump. She was like, all right.
It only seems appropriate.
And so I needed to calm down, and so I put on a mask, and go, Cristina, I got to go get some coffee. It's just like I got to get out of here, man. I jumped out of my skin. I liked your post before we get started. I liked your post talking about 2023. You're gonna escape. You're gonna fly the nest. You're gonna graduate.
You have no idea the excitement I'm feeling, but also the extreme amount of stress, because this is going to be my hardest year in university, taking the most amount of classes this year. So I am really, really excited to finally get my diploma.
Congratulations. That's a real big deal. You're not going to be one of those addicted students to college and then go back for 2 more years, milk your parents for some more money and all of that stuff. You're not going to do that because of your scarediness of going out into the real world. You're not going to do any of that. You're going to
I have big ambitions for this upcoming year as soon as I graduate, getting an RV. And I am a self-funded college student, so I'm the one paying my way through college. So it has been taking me a little bit more time than most people just because I have to pay for it. But aside from that, as soon as I graduate, everyone that is watching and listening is going with me on the journey to travel the United States, hitting all of the paranormal and UFO hotspots. So I am stoked. I cannot wait. And I'm eyeballing a few RVs that have really caught my attention.
We're going to be watching and going through this journey with you together. It's going to be exciting. But and before we move on, but there was one little snippet in there that caught my eye. You said that you took an extra class on documentary filmmaking. That is a really, really big deal.
I got some big plans, Jimmy.
What did you, and for everybody listening, I'm just curious, when you take a class like that, what's the one thing that you walked away with? There's always one thing that you didn't know going in and it's kind of life changing. And so when you took the class, what's that one thing that you came away with?
Well, definitely technical camera knowledge, but I think the biggest one is film everything. Have more footage than not having enough. And
Never
I
turn
think
it off. Never turn it off.
never turn it off. That I think that was the key piece of advice because I'm not a big hoarder. I don't like keeping a lot of pictures on my phone or having too many videos. But after taking that course over the summer, I'm like, record everything. Everything is content. Everything.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. When you least expect it, that's when it happens.
Exactly.
If you're filming over here and you think you're capturing the magic stuff,
It'll be
it's
behind you.
it's a fact. It's just the way that it is. And the really good documentaries, you go and you watch somebody like Vanna Herzog. What I mean, probably the best. There's other great documentarians out there that know what they're doing, but Vanna, and his narration is always great. But he is shooting not what somebody else would think is the correct shot.
Well, it's an art form in itself, and we will definitely get more into that. But today we're talking about haunted places, and we have
Christina
so much
just
to
drove the
cover.
car. She just went, okay, church. This is it.
We
This is
have a lot
my
to
show,
cover.
man. This is my
And
show. This
uh,
is my show.
John Russell, thank you so much. It says, keep up the awesome work, Christina. I deeply appreciate that. And Deranged Lunatic, thank you so much as well for supporting the channel and the RV fund because we're on this journey together. All right, so let's start off. So, okay, back up. When I was doing the research for today's show, there were quite a few locations I was like, I have never heard of this. And there were a few others I was like, I mean, I know the name, but I'm not too familiar with like the background story and the hauntings that take place there.
Right.
So for use like it
You and
for those that are listening or for those that are watching, there will be a few that you're like, yeah, I know the story, and there are going to be others that are like, what? I need to go there right now. So I think it's going to be a pretty exciting episode. Jessica, thank you so much for the super chat. It says, can't wait until you graduate. You will do amazing work in the field. Girl, I'm so excited too. And Laura, thank you so much as well. It says, RV fund or noodles? ¿Por qué no los dos? That is like one of my favorite commercials about like the taco, but it's also a tortilla. ¿Por qué no los dos? Best commercial ever. Okay, so
is that true?
is what true?
How you say it? Say it again.
¿Por qué no los dos? Why not both of them?
Oh man, you've got a great career in front of you.
Jimmy, thank you.
Man,
Thank you so
man,
much.
somebody has got wrestled control. Did you see me clicking?
No, thank you.
Right here.
Muchas gracias, de verdad. I really appreciate that. Okay, so let's get into our first location, and this one takes place in Australia.
Oh yeah.
Now, as we know, Australia is already a crazy country. You have the biggest bugs there. You have like some of the most venomous animals that live there, and it's a scary place, but also incredibly beautiful. Well, it also has its fair share of hauntings as well. One of them being the Monte Cristo Homestead in Australia. Have you heard of this place, Jimmy?
I have, and I want you to continue. But one look at an image of this house, it's haunted. It's haunted. It's haunted. There's no question about it. There's no way I wouldn't. That's haunted, man. That is just haunted. I mean, haunted. You wouldn't, if you were a kid, with your friends walking home from school, you had to walk past that every day. Right? Right. Okay. So tell us the history.
Okay, so Christopher William Crowley, the wealthy and powerful founder of the town of June, once lived in the mansion with his wife, children, and numerous servants. The family hosted very fancy balls and played tennis and golf on the grounds. And then Crowley died in the home at the age of 69 after a boil on his neck got infected. And after his death, the locals said his wife almost never left the house. She died there at the age of 92, only leaving the house about 3 times during the 2 decades as a widow. Now, it is believed that her spirit still lurks the premises because she was very um she was very possessive of this home. She didn't want anyone else living in it. She lived there for so many years and she died there. But there's also some pretty tragic deaths that took place in this home. And according to local legend, a young maid fell from the balcony to her death, and she was rumored to be pregnant at the time by the owner of the house. And it's believed that she actually wanted to jump off the balcony to have a miscarriage, but it went wrong and she died along with the child as well. And also, back then, it wasn't necessarily uncommon for young maids to fall pregnant to the owner. And that's what the newest owner said, Lawrence Ryan said about this incident that took place quite some time back. And it seems that in this home, the owner, Crowley, had 10 children with his wife and about another 10 with the staff. And there was a maid that committed suicide, like I had just mentioned, but there was another one where she had a child. She totally had a child. This young boy by the name of Harold actually was in a terrible accident. He got hit by a coach and he got head trauma, causing him to be disabled for life. And actually, the poor boy was kept on chains in the coach room. I would like to emphasize that these are merely rumors of these stories, but there have been quite a few sightings of ghosts, both kind of nice and not so nice, that have taken place in this home because this location is available for tourists to enter and I think also to like stay overnight as well. But local children would actually mock Harold, this boy that I just mentioned, because he would scream all day. And they called him a monster. And the children of June challenged each other to find and actually pester him. He was eventually put away in an asylum after he was found by the authorities chained to his mother's bed. And by this time, she had passed away for a while. So he died at the asylum, but still haunts the grounds of the homestead. And he makes his presence known by the sounds of chains. But Jimmy, there's quite a few other stories that have taken place in this house.
The house is completely haunted. I mean, I could have stopped you halfway through that and said that's enough.
No, there's
Right.
more.
There are at least 10 ghosts that haunt this house. And here's another. When you first look at it, and I'm sure back in the day, it was probably pretty cool, pretty nice. Now that you know the reputation and the background and everything that has gone on in and outside of this home, it looks haunted. It looks scary. It looks creepy. It was also left abandoned for years, for decades.
Right.
Nobody wanted. It just had such a nasty reputation. One thing is for sure, the previous owners hated animals. They hated the afterlife as well. They talked about this, and all of the background with this just makes the house dark. It's just a dark place. When the Ryans came home one night, they found all of their chickens strangled to death in the poultry barn. Now it's like, wait, it's things like that, Christina, right? It's just on top of each other. Their parrot was choked to death in its cage. Who does that? Right? The house is just dark. It's evil. It's been movie sets. It's been featured in a lot of things over the years because you can look and see that, it's just a beautiful home. It's got that typical Australian plantation vibe with the wraparound porches, and it looks beautiful at first. And then you find out about this background. The house is completely dark and haunted.
And to make mention. It was built in 1876, and I feel like anything that dates back to the 1800s, it's always going to be haunted, right? It has so much life and death that take place in locations like that. It has so much time to kind of muster up these hauntings that I wouldn't want to live in anything too old like a place like this. Michael, thank you so much for the super chat. It says, congratulations, you must get a dog for your travels. Do you know of the Count of Monte Cristo? I don't know about the Count, like Count Dracula.
No,
No,
Count of Monte Cristo. Michael, cracking jokes. Okay. All right. Cracking joke.
because you can
Yes.
never go wrong with
We know
Count
about that.
Dracula.
We know about the Count Dracula. I
And
like
Carrie, thank you so much as well.
Count Chocula. Now that,
Why not?
yeah, that's a count I can get into. The original owner of the house that built the house. Check this out.
I'm checking.
The modern medicine, specifically antibiotics, right? That's 100 years old, Christina. 100 years old. So 100 years ago, abscessed tooth, you're going to die,
Mhm.
right? It's just a little, in fact, a little thing on your skin or whatever. That's it, right? It's crazy, and people didn't know about washing hands and germs and stuff.
I know.
The original owner of the house had a little nick on the back of his neck, right? His shirt collar rubbed on it.
Mhm. Because it had like starch or something
Di-
on that collar.
died, died, died. You know, it's just and you know, of course, the wife is never going to get over something like that. And how horrific is it for a family, the trauma, right, to go through when it's not like you were struck by lightning or you were run over by a horse and carriage or you know
Right.
or you were shot or no, you just get an infection and it turns into a blood infection, and the next thing you know, you die a very horrible, frightening death that you're awake for, and your family goes through it with you.
And it was so common at the time
So
for
common at the time.
centuries.
Yeah. So common, so common.
Well,
Uh,
there's another story of a staple boy that died, and he went by the name of Morris, and like one day he didn't feel well and decided to stay in bed at the coach house. His master didn't approve of the fact that the boy slept in, so he decided to teach Morris a lesson. He put the boy's straw mattress on fire,
yeah,
thinking
set
he
it up.
would jump up and get to work. But that wasn't the case. Morris was actually ill and he couldn't get up. So he died in that bed. And people hear his screams up to this day. And yeah, which is, I mean, that is no way to one, teach someone a
The whole
lesson.
house, you know, like I said, it's inside, it's outside, it's the treatment of animals. You know, the two housemaids or whatever you want to call it. You know, the son gets them pregnant. They're jumping off balconies. The house is completely dark and it's completely haunted. You know, using the word evil, well, you might be able to use it here a little bit freer than I normally would because we can't really apply things. But who chokes a parrot, right?
I know it's kind of random and
Who
terrible.
chokes a parrot? Unless you're overcome by something and the darkness that seems to be over the top of this estate.
Well, there is definitely a certain level of darkness or evil because Crowley's infant granddaughter Ethel died in 1917 because the nursemaid dropped her on the stairs. However, the nurse claimed she was pushed by an unseen force, but she wasn't believed. Today, children who visit this museum, that's what it is now, become irritable and upset when they enter the stairs, and some guests say they feel as if they're being pushed on their backs. Some claim to feel an ice cold, tiny little finger slip into theirs when they go up stairs into the rooms.
Not me, man. Not me. Ghost Hunters International, right? So many TV shows have been not only attracted to this home, but because of the hauntings, lights are being turned on and off.
Right.
People get sick. I mean, nauseous by just entering a room. And this stuff is there. Yeah, completely haunted. I'm serious. Look at this picture. If you and your friends, fourth grade, walking home from school with your backpacks, and you got to endure that every single day walking past that, right? John Russell says he'd go and investigate it. John, better man than me, man. Better man. There's, you know what? I love ghost hunting and investigations. Christina, you and I have talked about this a lot. There are, I love going on them. They're fun, especially when you have a group of people around you. But there's certain situations, I'm just not going to mess with. I'll let somebody else do it. Like this little house of horrors right here. I would never do it. No. That's got the wrong reputation. Oh.
Well, not only are people seeing orbs and hearing things, but they're also smelling smoke when there's no fire lit as well. There's also been incidents of people smelling death, which is a very unique smell for those that haven't smelled it. I don't casually recommend it for a thrill. It is pretty gross. But it's interesting that you're getting all of these types of things being witnessed at the house, hearing things, smelling things, feeling things. The next one's just tasting things, and then you're good to go. You got all the senses going for you.
Not me.
But this location is believed to be one of the most haunted places in all of Australia.
I posted earlier, all of Australia is haunted. and I say that because I say it in jest, of course, but Australia, Australia in the coolest of cool ways. I say this with total affection. That country is, well, it's a continent, is isolated from the rest of the world, right? It's hard to get to. If you are going to Australia, it's because you want to go to Australia. You're not doing a drive-by, right? You're not doing a sail-by. And because of its isolation, very early on, it was a prison colony for the United Kingdom. And so that has nothing to do with anything else but this. I think that the overall mentality of Australia are rebel free thinkers, right? And that's I love Australians for just that. And now you take that, and so the spirits, those that have passed on with that kind of mentality, that just makes it haunted, right? You have the same free spirit. I'm using the word spirit here. Free spirit mentality as in living as you do in death. You know, as you go into the afterlife. And Australia, man, it's haunted and it's cool. But I'm not going in that house. No.
I think every country is haunted, but we have so much more to cover. And there's one thing that I do want to mention, and I want to say that at the beginning of the show, but we kind of got carried away. And that is truly a huge thank you to all the subscribers here on YouTube, because we just hit 20,000 subscribers in the early hours of the morning. I know, it's a big milestone.
Wow.
And I'm truly completely humbled, like really grateful and humbled that you are all part of this wonderful Strange Paradigms community. And this is because you are sharing these shows with your friends and on forums and on social media as well. And I just want to say thank you so much to everyone watching this on YouTube. You guys are awesome.
Right here, right above me, rock star, right there. That's
right here, right below. That's also a rock star.
That's a rock star right there.
Jimmy,
20K.
I know. I mean, you were here at 10K. Now you're here at 20K. I mean,
wow.
I didn't expect it, but I am truly grateful. Jimmy, well, where do you want to?
I do know where I want to go next, but I'm just, you know what, folks? I'm looking at these likes. We're at 60. I'm out of here if we don't hit 100 in 60 seconds. You have 60 seconds. I'm watching my countdown timer. You want me to turn the camera around? You can see my big red glowing atomic studio clock.
Well, guys, don't
50
let Jimmy
seconds.
leave because he has a lot of stories that
50
he'll be
seconds.
covering personally that I will
50
not.
seconds. 50 seconds. I want to get this to 100. Quit playing around. Quit playing around. The
Well,
college student paying her own way through, and you just want to just lollygag here and not hit the like button. Get it done.
welcome to the show. Thank you so much for
Okay,
the super sticker.
66. You guys
Appreciate
got
that.
45 seconds.
Oh
That's
my gosh.
that's a like per second. It better just start clicking up. Okay, where do I want to go next? 73.
Yeah.
You guys are doing good. You've got 30 seconds, 32 seconds, now 30 seconds.
All right. Where do you want to take us? What's the next haunted location?
Any one of these would be awesome, but can we do the Stanley Hotel?
Oh, yes.
Got to do the Stanley. Got to do the Stanley. Got to do the Stanley. So take us through the Stanley. You know, for those out there that don't know of the Stanley Hotel, well, technically you do. You're very familiar with it. And we'll get into that in just a second. But for those that do know the Stanley, there it is.
Beautiful.
All right. In Estes Park, Colorado. It's just north of Denver, Boulder area, Estes Park, Colorado. A couple of things before I hand this off to Cristina. With paranormal investigators that are doing things on location, you will hear them reference the Estes method, ESTES. So when you put on a pair of headphones, you cut yourself off from your surroundings. You're listening to stuff in your headphones. You put on a blindfold, so you are completely isolated from your environment. And John Ryan, investigate that sucker too. Is this? And things will communicate to you through that because of your isolation. That was invented at the Stanley Hotel, and that is why it is called the Estes method. And the other part, and I'm going to hand this off to Cristina for the history of this, made famous by
The one and only
Stephen King and The Shining. And so there you go. So let's hand this off. Cristina, what's the history here?
First off, Deranged Lunatic, thank you so much for the super sticker and once again supporting the channel. Okay, so this hotel, the Stanley Hotel, opened in 1909, and guests marveled at the structure of the hotel, as you can see here in this image. It was surrounded by wilderness, but somehow featured electricity, telephones, modern bathrooms, and a maid and cooking staff in professional uniform, which was a big deal at this time. So, for decades, the Stanley has been seen as posh, a very exclusive Mountain West destination that provided a restful, rejuvenating break for busy East Coast lifestyles. But in the 1970s, the hotel had fallen into grave despair due to years of neglect and lack of investment and had become a shell of its former self. The Stanley easily could have been demolished had it not been for a bizarre and fatal string of occurrences involving a now sentimental author and his famous nightmare that took place in room 217. So in the 1970s, author Stephen King was working on The Stand and living in Boulder, Colorado. One weekend, he and his wife Tabitha traveled an hour north to Estes Park for a weekend away from their kids. Great way to do it. In an interview on The View, King explained that the Stanley Hotel was open on its last day for the season when he and Tabitha arrived looking for accommodations. King said that they would be the only guests in the large hotel that night. And if you look how big this hotel is, that's already eerie. Just starting off being the only people, the only guests there, Either it's super awesome or incredibly terrifying. And so after a night at the restaurant and bar, the couple retired to room 217. At this time, they had no idea that this room was actually haunted. In a lucid nightmare, Stephen King dreamed of a coiled fire hose coming to life and chasing his screaming son as he ran down the halls of the hotel. After waking in a panic, King lit a cigarette and stared out the window. By the time he had finished his smoke and got back into bed, the rough outline of The Shining was fully formed in his mind. Now, if you haven't seen the movie The Shining, it's not gory, there's not monsters, it's not that kind of scary movie, but it's psychologically terrifying. And I think that when you're older, it seems a lot more scary compared to when you're a child or when you watched it as a child. You're going to see that difference in the film, which it's iconic. It is probably one of the most iconic films in that specific genre that it's in. But the Stanley's connection to King and the terrifying night that inspired The Shining are the hotel's most famous and influential creepy occurrences. Well, so they thought, but that's actually not the case for guests that have been in the hotel. While you might think it's because of the movie that it's incredibly famous, incredibly haunting, there have been hauntings happening in very specific rooms for decades and prior to the 1970s. One of them actually took place in 1911. So, after the valley experienced a flood, the 2-year-old hotel's power went out for the first time. So, Stanley took it upon himself, the original owner, right? Took it upon himself to install a gas lantern in each room to provide the guests with a light. And then a leak caused a buildup of gas to form in room 217. The head chambermaid, Elizabeth Wilson, entered the room with a lit candle and set off a massive explosion. She miraculously survived and was launched from the room's entrance to the dining hall located on the first floor. However, an estimated 10% of the hotel wasn't that lucky. There were just fire everywhere. And after waking up from a coma, Elizabeth Wilson returned to work in 1913 and remained employed by the hotel until 1950. But here's where it gets weird, Jimmy. We're talking
Oh,
about
you're saying it gets weird?
the reason to why I'm bringing up this story of this lovely chambermaid
Right.
is because after she had passed, which to our knowledge, she did not die in the hotel, but people believe that her spirit still lurks there, very specifically in room 217. Now, she's not the scary type of ghost, but actually, she likes to tidy things up in that room, fix the beds, fold your clothes, organize your suitcase. I mean, that is amazing. And that's a really, really rare case of an entity like that one. But there are a few more evil type entities. But Jimmy, take it away. What can you tell us about this infamous hotel?
I will say this. I was with some friends. I don't want to say too much because it wouldn't be. They're not here with us on the show right now. Who have worked at the Stanley? I'm not going to say what they did for the last 10 years, right? And this was within the last year. And I said, so what's the deal? Is it haunted? That it's completely haunted, right? They were telling me that you can hear stuff. Occasionally you will see stuff. You always feel stuff. There is something going on there. And it's the grounds. Okay, this image that you just brought up, I'm glad that you did that because we always see the front of the hotel. The hotel itself, it's very big, and the grounds and the gardens and lots of space. It's not a small hotel. And my friends had showed me some video of them just walking through the hotel, the two of them together, down rooms, down rooms, downstairs into the hotel from the outside, around, down hallways here, and then you really get a sense of the size of the place. And it's wood. It's got a different vibe to it. It's not a modern construction. Kind of like the Hotel Cordoba here which is also completely haunted, in San Diego. Same era, same age, same look to it. But anyway, so my friends, absolutely, they've been working there for 10 years.
Dang.
And they also said that so many people that stay at the hotel, they're staying there for the same reasons. The Shining, right? That's why you go to the. Now it's a beautiful the spas, the things, the location. It's Estes Park. It's beautiful. There's no question about it. But you don't go to the Stanley for that. You go to the Stanley because of The Shining. So that vibe is there, right? You have everybody looking for, hoping for, seeking things, right? And that elevates it. And they said every day, every night, something is going on there, and you can just feel it. And now going back to two things for me when it comes to the Stanley. Three. I'll just lay it out there. Number one, I read the book before I saw the movie. And I read the book when I was 9 or 10 years old. Wrong age to read the book. Stephen King has got a very simplistic way of writing. He doesn't use big words. So my little 10-year-old mind got sucked into this book, man. And I've read it a few times. Terrified me. I loved it. It was just a really, really, really good, scary book to read. If you're going to read a scary book, read that, and read it at a young age. Right? Look who I am today. So anyway, then I went and saw the movie. And some people will say that the movie and the book are not the same. Well, that's true with any book and any movie adaptation to it. But no, there were quite a few. So I knew what was going on. The movie itself, scared me beyond belief. And one of the reasons why the movie is so terrifying is that it's based on Stephen King's own experiences at the hotel. So that translates really well to the page. That right there, right? It's real. It feels real. But all of the actors in the movie, if it's Scatman Crothers on down, I can talk about Jack and stuff, were all, because of Kubrick, I think that they were all mentally on the edge. They were tested, man. They were pushed, and they were inside of these roles. And the roles were all of a mental degradation, right? It's a mental thing. There's a little blood. There's things, but that's not what makes the movie scary. It's how the mind can come apart. And that, for me, in watching the movie after reading the book, it really got me. And then there's part number 3. The way that Kubrick didn't use the original Stanley for the movie. He built a new hotel. He built a new facade, and they did that for the movie. And that took me, Cristina, into the investigation of everything about the Stanley Hotel, which I have not stopped. I continue the movie Room 237. Check it out. Our friend Jay Widener is in this film. He's done a lot of Kubrick research, and how Stephen King and Kubrick, developed this and worked on this together, and the history behind it. And so now here's my part number 4. What year is this? 2023. So I'm going to go 25 years ago. I'm in a recording studio and I'm recording this artist. And she comes to me. She's got 3 songs. And song number 1, song number 2, song number 3. She's got her musician. She's a singer. And I said, okay. And I'm looking and I see, it's like song number 2 is called room 217.
Nice.
Okay, now we're talking about a situation where you're recording late at night. Mark Tasaka.
Thank you so much, Mark. It says, Cristina and Jimmy, please keep up the excellent work. Wink. Thank you.
Thank you, Tasaka. So, and this is so everything with me and the Stanley and the Shining. Now I'm recording this song, which is about room 217 and the Shining and the Stanley Hotel. And I'm mixing it. We're cutting vocals. It's not a happy song. This isn't it's not that kind of song. And it caused me to go back and think about things, the labyrinth, the degradation of the mind and so forth. So yes, my interest in this goes back a long ways. The history is there. Of course, there's Stephen King and everything. But putting all that aside, my friends have told me, and they still work there, by the way, it's completely haunted, all of it.
Well, there's not just ghost people lurking around the hotel, but there's also a ghostly dog as well. So there's actually an on-site pet cemetery where some of the owner's animals have been laid to rest over the years. And one of them is actually Cassie, a friendly golden retriever that was said to deliver newspapers and scratch on the doors to be let inside. That dog is still doing that now.
Yeah.
And that's you either kind of love that story or you hate it. And while it is a very short one, I am all for some little ghostly animals. Because you don't have to clean up after them. They still love you. You can kind of sort of pet them. You don't have to feed them. I mean, so many perks and benefits.
Your thoughts are so strangely specific. And you've been thinking about this way too long, Cristina. So I will say this. I have got a visit on the books to the Stanley Hotel. I am going to be doing that very shortly, maybe within the month before Christmas. And I'll report back. We'll come back. We'll do a whole show on the Stanley, and I'll get some pictures and some video for everybody. But yes, it's on the books. It's already planned, and I'm really looking forward to. With all of my history, I'm 59, right? I'm 59. I'm going to be 60, which means for 50 years I've been thinking about this place. And I'm finally, I'm finally going to be able to get there and go check it out. And we'll do it with your RV. I'll have my Jeep and my trailer. And man, let's go to Estes Park, Colorado.
Yeah, and for those that don't know, Jimmy's also planning on getting a trailer as well, because that is living the dream. Traveling and then documenting everything. Who doesn't want to do that?
Yeah, I'm getting a little baby trailer. It's called a teardrop.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, those are cute.
What's that?
Those are cute.
Well, yeah, I'm getting an off-road one with knobby tires and have everything, but something small enough that I can tow behind the Jeep and just go. I don't have to. You're going to have some 60-foot monstrosity with a Class A license that you're going to have to get from a commercial trucking school. That's what you're going to be driving. I'm just going to get a little baby trailer. It's going to be like this big. The door is about as big as what you're looking at here. That's how big the door is. It's like this big.
But those are appropriate for the things that you want to do.
Yeah.
Dawn aside, thank you so much. It says get Puck some ramen or an RV. Ramen wagon. He's going to get ramen and he's going to be in the RV actually driving while I record everything. So make sure you get your license, Puck, okay? Thank you.
Okay, so what are we doing next?
Okay. Let's move on to our next one. Should we talk about hold on, let me find it. Oh, what about Suicide Forest in Japan?
Yeah, sad and melancholy, but a real location at the same time. Yes.
And super haunted. Or let's talk about the one in Indonesia.
You're talking about Lawang? You know what?
Yeah.
Okay, one of the things that we can do that. I'm going to do the color commentary on this one. I'm going to let
Okay.
Christina tell you the history, but I'm going to say this. One look, just like the Monte Cristo house, right? I mean, there are certain things you look at it and you go, that's what are you doing going in there? I mean, that's haunted. And then it's everything else tied to it. This is like the most haunted building in Indonesia. Oh,
That's
this is
right.
the kind photograph. You're
Yeah,
showing
this
the
one is this one
kind.
is pretty, but yeah, like you said, Jimmy, this is believed to be the most haunted place in all of Indonesia,
That's right.
the Lawang Sewu. And I know I'm not saying that right, and I'm very sorry, but that's what we're gonna get today.
No, you're saying it right.
Okay.
Lawang, Sewu. That's how I would say it.
Gosh, we're so American. Well, this is located in
Gringos.
I
Gringo.
know, right? Gringos aquí, pero right here, where this is located in Semarang, Indonesia, and this it was used as military headquarters during World War II, and the large and mysterious building is simply not a deserted structure anymore, but it was for quite some time, very much like the Stanley Hotel where it was built. It was beautiful, it was amazing, it got abandoned, and then it kind of got picked up afterward. Well, here in this location during World War II, a lot of pretty bad and sad things happened. There was a lot of death that took place here. And the reason to why it is called Lawang Siwu, gosh, it just
No,
sounds
you're
so
right.
bad when I say it,
Yeah,
but
you're right.
it
You're good.
translates and it means 1,000 doors because one, it has a ton of doors, but the second one is that the windows also look like doors. They represent doors as well. So that's why it is called 1,000 doors. And excuse me. And this building actually became a scene for the bloody Battle of Siaring, where many soldiers were actually tortured and killed. And
Mhm.
since then, this place has served as a house for many vengeful spirits. So the construction took place in 1904 and it was completed in 1907, while the additional buildings were built in 1916 and completed in 1918. So it was actually first created for the Dutch when they were creating their railway station in Indonesia. Because at this time, Dutch, not Dutch, but the Dutch occupied a good amount of Indonesia during this time period. Then during World War II, the Japanese occupied the building and used the dungeons for interrogation. And then in 1946, it served as the headquarters for the Dutch army. But while the Japanese occupied this building, it's believed that the Japanese people would torture and hang people from the iron beams under the ceiling. And it is said that this place is frequented by many ghosts, many of them grief ridden, and are said to haunt anyone who stands underneath these beams. Hence, guides, because now it is a museum, guides often tell the tourists to stick together in fear of one of them wandering too far or falling into a trap laid down by the very same ghosts. But what's even scarier is that the guides offer all of its tourists a ritual by which they can actually see ghosts, although there is no way to reverse the ritual. Many of the tourists have often reported being kind of creeped out by this offer because for the majority of people who wants to see ghosts, right? Most people would say no, absolutely not. But I think it's kind of interesting that these tour guides would say, "Hey, look, if you want to see ghosts, we can do a ritual right here, right now, and you can see all of them if you like." I'd be in. I would say, "Yeah, let's do it." But I think maybe you have to pay extra for something like that. So
You,
many of the
I want you to continue. You're again, Christina's saving the best for last.
Oh, of course.
There is this place is messed up.
It
I
is.
mean, it is complete. Okay, do you have any pictures of the interior? Maybe the basement? Do you have any pictures of that, Chris?
I didn't save those. I can pull this up. But the outside is just so pretty, But the inside, yeah, it is very spooky looking. It's practically just fully cement, especially the basement area where the during the war, World War II, there was a lot of beheadings that took place. There was a lot of drownings that took place down there as well. And it was a place that I had mentioned for interrogation. So obviously, if you didn't say the right words, you're done for.
Have you seen the movie?
I have not seen the movie. Is it good?
Yeah, I feel like horror films. It's pretty good.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's pretty good.
like it's got to
I
be
don't
a
do
really good horror film.
I
Because
don't do
I'm not
horror
the type
films.
for the whole like
Nah,
blood and guts and stuff.
not into it.
Very rarely. Like I love Hellraiser, fantastic film, both of them. But aside from that, I'm just not. I like thrillers, but not like full on bloody horror.
Man, my daughters, the more blood, the better.
Oh,
You know, and
jeez.
I'm sitting there like, oh, whoa, and they're like, let's go. You know, I just, I get it. Have you seen Barbarian?
No.
Okay, I hear that's supposed to be the one. It just came out. It's supposed to be really, really good. Well, okay, so the building. This is the crazy part. Hopefully, you've got an image of the Pontiac. Now, the Pontiac is a creature that is so scary that it doesn't have its own definition. Is it a ghost? Is it a spirit? Is it a demon? Don't know. But it's scarier than all of that. But here's the thing, Christina. A Pontiac takes the form. Now, this is how, you know what? So, you've got your daughter, your son, they're 4 years. Tell me a ghost story before bed.
This is the one.
Yeah, this is the one. This is the one you go with right here, man. This is the one you do. The Pontiac takes the form of a pregnant woman who was unable to give birth. A pregnant woman who was unable to give birth. Now that right there, right? Alternatively, it is often described as a vampire, a vengeful female spirit. Another form of the Pontiac refers to the ghost or a white lady, right? Dressed in white, of Southeast Asian folklore. The Pontiac is often depicted as a long-haired woman dressed in white and represents local variations of a vampire. She lures unexpected men to incite fear and get her revenge. Signs that a Pontiac is nearby include, now imagine telling this to your child, the sound of an infant crying and the smell of a decaying corpse.
I would like to mention that the Asian cultures have some of the scariest myths you could ever come across compared to any other culture, any other country, just all of Asia. Terrifying.
Terrifying. What was the movie about the mirror? The mirror. What was it called? With the round mirror.
I know which one you're talking about. And
the first one scared the crap out of me. The second one was awesome too. But that first one, what's it called? The mirror?
So someone in the chat is gonna know. It's someone's in the ring. Oh, that's right. That one is freaky and great for the time period it was created in. Robert, thank you so much. Thank you so much for the super chat. I do appreciate it, and hopefully you're doing a lot better these last few days. So, do you want to say anything else about this location before we continue, or should we move on?
We got other stuff to do, but yeah.
Okay.
This place is. I went through. I've heard about it over the years, and when you see the pictures of the two basement levels, and the hallways, and then the building of 1,000 doors. All of this adds to it, and then you see these long corridors, concrete,
Yeah.
just just a bad vibe. And then I mean, historically, part of documented fact about its history, bad things went down there. I mean, very, very, very bad.
A lot of torture took place, a lot of psychological torture as well,
Kind
where like a
kind
lot of people were placed in a very small enclosed area to where they went insane, because we are aware how badly that affects the mind.
Yeah.
And they would do this all the time during World War II. So it is a very haunted place, believed to be the most haunted location in all of Indonesia. So if you're ever visiting, and if you like the paranormal, stop by, because here is why. Aside from all this crazy stuff, but it was abandoned for quite a few decades. When the government went in, they're like, we need to revamp this guy. But how are we going to bring people in to make money? It's haunted, and it is haunted.
Right.
But they capitalized on that like so many others do, which is totally normal. And now they're just getting just groups and groups and groups of tourists from around the world. However, the locals, they are not for it. They're like, nope, no thank you, because they believe, at least allegedly, some of them believe that if they enter, they're going to have a hitchhiker coming back home with them. They're going to
That's right.
bring a ghost or a demon back home. And so some locals will attempt to sway the tourists and saying, no, 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 don't go. You're going to bring something home that you're not expecting. And the tourists, being tourists as they are, as we are, we're like, we're going to go for it. We are going to go and say hello to all the spooky ghosts out there, because a lot of us live for that thrill. Bigfoot, Michigan, Rob. Hi, how are you? How you doing, buddy? Good to see you. But one more thing that I would like to mention before we continue about this place is that, along with the government capitalizing on it, which is genius if you want to bring back a desolate building, right? Aside from all of the hauntings that specifically took place during World War II, and even the tour guides saying, hey, you want to do a ritual on seeing ghosts? Let's go do it. Aside from all of that, it's in such a beautiful location. The building on the outside is stunning. And while it might look kind of haunted, it is a beautiful place to visit. So if you're going to Indonesia and you want to stop by, take some selfies and tag Jimmy and I. We want to see them. Thank you.
It's so historical, the building, Lawang, Sewu, that the government really had a hard time trying to get the people of Indonesia to come and visit and to do it just as a government building, as a historical location. No, because it's haunted. They just didn't want anything to do with the building, and the locals know, and they really had a difficult time. And then you add the Pontiac, or however.
Yeah, that scary little demon creature. No, thank you.
So there you go. Lawang, Sewu. I think it's Sewu. Lawang, Sewu. That sounded good.
That one sounded good. That one sounded good.
Sounded legit. Where are we going next, young lady?
Well, I just picked this one, so go ahead and pick the next one for us.
Oh, you picked this one?
Yeah, I picked the one in Indonesia.
Hold on. Let's see. Let's go with. Oh man, okay. Let's save the house for last. I don't want to say which. Let's save the house for last.
I got you.
Let's go with Poveglia Island in Italy. Oh. Now, I have we didn't do the haunted forest in Japan.
That's okay. Let's do this one. This one is crazy.
I have in my garage. I thought about doing it. I should have gone and grabbed it. Here, as I'm going to let Cristina run with this in just a second, but we've all seen those crazy masks with the bird beak, right? That
Right.
comes out like this, right? Okay. The mask, first off, one of the scariest things that you could ever see. It just looks scary. You don't have to know the history. You don't know anything. It just looks scary, right? Okay, so maybe 5 years ago, Halloween, 6 years ago, Halloween, I get a couple of those masks, and I'm thinking I'm going to wear one. I got a black one, right? And I'm going to wear that while I'm handing out Halloween candy. And so the first group of kids, little kids with their parents, little, the 3-year-old girl, 4-year, they come up. There's a group of like 10. And I turn around. I got my cauldron of candy, and I got that mask on. I turn around. This little girl, bah! And turned and ran, right? And her mom looks at me and is like, "What's wrong with you?" And I'm like, "What?" Took them. That's how scary the girl doesn't know about Poveglia Island. She doesn't know the history of this mask. They just look terrifying. Those masks are because of this island right here. And the history of it, we're going to get into the island in a second. But those masks, the crow with the eyes and the thing and the mask and everything, was because of the plague. And so they thought that it was breathing, and you could breathe in something else and not breathe in other stuff. Right? And it could have been anything. There was a lot of ideas behind this, but that's what the mask was for. So you could breathe up through that. That's what now it turns out that it's like the scariest thing that you can look at. Right. And it invokes this fear. It's crazy. And I'm kind of glad I didn't bring it in, because somebody would have done a screenshot and it would have been meme central, me wearing that mask. But it's just terrifying, all because of Poveglia Island. What's the history of Poveglia?
So this island is believed to be one of the most haunted places in Italy. And I would like to mention this was the first time I've ever heard of this place, and I was blown away by the legends and by some of the facts that took place on this island. So, back in 421, the island's first ever residents found refuge on this island from the barbaric invaders. And then the island remained barely populated until the 14th century. So everything went smooth till that time. One after another, everyone kind of began to leave the island. And then when the Black Death or the bubonic plague started in the 1300s, this was the location. This island was where the Italians would place all of the infected, the dead, and the dying right here. So if you showed even one itty bitty little symptom, you were going to go there, and there was no returning back home. That was it.
That's it. That's it.
That was it.
You were sent to that island, one-way ticket.
And so tens of thousands of the sick and dying were dumped there and were totally left to die. So obviously there was absolutely no hope of coming back. And it was during this time period that if you knew you got that ticket to go to this island, there was nothing that you could do. And there was also a lot of ashes here as well, because all of the dead, they would be burned right there on that island. And then from the 1800s to the early 1900s, the island was turned into a mental asylum. A little bit back, actually, Napoleon had this island to hold weapons. I would like to mention that. And then in the late 1800s, early 1900s, it was created into an asylum. And if you showed any little itty bitty thing that made you look a little bit crazy or insane, you were placed here during this time period. We are aware throughout the world, they weren't necessarily treated very humane. So a lot of lobotomies took place here, and just touching on lobotomies, they are treacherous. They are horrible, where you're putting a little stick in someone's nose into their brain, messing with their brain, and it is incredibly painful. That's just like a little tidbit. It goes in a lot more detail on that.
Christina, stop.
Well, anyways, a lot of that stuff happened. But now getting into the legend.
I'm already tormented with this island, and you got to go there. Nurse Ratched. Okay. All right. Oh, she doesn't understand the Nurse Ratched.
No.
Okay.
Is it a meme?
One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, the movie, Academy Award winner. Nurse Ratched was the nurse there. And then the TV series Ratched, which came out last year. That's all I'm going to say. It's about lobotomies.
Well, terrible. And it was, we're not going to get into that. Well, in 1922, then there were buildings that were reconstructed there to host a home for the elderly. That wasn't actually the case, but you can find that documentation. But the crazy thing, and this is kind of where the legend comes in, is during the times of the asylum that was on the island, there was one particular doctor that did all these tests on the patients, and allegedly he went so crazy in the 1930s that he jumped off the tower, I think the clock tower, and he survived. But it's to this day, people think that his spirit still haunts this island. This island is practically prohibited. It is off limits. No locals, no tourists are allowed to get onto the island. If you do, you will be fined by the Italian government. And there are, I think, a few other instances as well where there are consequences, because during the time from the 1930s on to I think the 1990s, the government attempted to do some reconstruction there, but time and time again, it abruptly stopped. And so it's believed by the locals that it's just way too haunted, that it cannot be re-inhabited by people. And of course, there are those that still sneak on the island for a few hours to get that thrill. But if you are caught, is not so good for you. I would still go though.
Can you imagine when you look at this image here? Now look in the background, the shoreline. The shoreline, there were boats filled with people going out to this island, right? And what that must have been like. And looking at the island, from the shoreline every day, it's just got this strangeness to it, and for everybody historically, the Black Plague and an insane asylum and everything else. Look at that. So there was, I think it was like a 2-parter or a 3-parter, Ghost Adventures, Zach Bagans. They went to the island. They went to the island for a couple of days, and I got to tell you, it's one of the scariest, most haunted places on planet Earth. I don't think there's any question about it.
Mm-mm. No, but it seems like some of these more famous ghost TV shows have just hit every crazy part of the globe. And yeah, this place right here, this island, once again, is believed to be one of the most haunted locations in all of Italy. And it is totally off limits, so you cannot go here. But
No.
all the other locations that we've covered and will cover, they are now tourist attractions. Either you can stay the night if it's a hotel, or it is a museum where you can still get that little bit of thrill if you're lucky, which not everyone is.
Let's go. Let's do the Japanese forest. I'm looking at the clock here.
Okay.
I'm going to get these last 2 in.
Okay. Let me pull up an image while I do that. Jimmy, take it away. Tell us the background.
You have the historical perspective, but I'm going to give like I said, the color commentary on this, because probably 5 years ago, the media really, I'm talking about the international media, the the history behind this forest in Japanese culture is there. But the international media started to pick up on what was going on there because the Japanese press, it started to come out about how many people were using this forest to kill themselves. All right. Now, the history behind the forest before that is one thing, but this became a location for people to go. And it started to get to the point, Christina, that you weren't allowed to go there alone.
No,
You
no.
had to have escorts.
The nickname of this forest is called Suicide Forest, and there's obviously a reason behind that. But the name that the Japanese call it is Aokigahara Forest in Japan, which is just right at the bottom of Mount Fuji. And it's believed that there's been at least 500 reported suicides in the forest since the 1950s. However, more recently, there's been about 100 every single year. There are teams that go out, I think, 1 or 2 times a year that look for bodies. And I have an image here. It's a bunch of shoes, but
Crazy,
here
crazy.
you have a team of
Yes.
people that go out and they look because there are so many instances of people going here to finish their last moments here on earth, so much so actually that the Japanese government have made lines, if you look right in one of these images, there are lines that take you from the entrance to the forest into the forest and then back around so that you do not get lost, because it's believed that there is a high level of metals right under the floor that causes compasses and GPS to malfunction, which makes you get lost, obviously, right? So they
Mhm,
created
mhm.
these strings to get you in and out. There's also signs right outside of the forest that say, consider your family, turn back. It's really not a safe place. People have been found wandering around in the forest as if they're in a trance. And some people have even woken up from a like sleepwalking s- um,
Yeah.
state in the forest, and they actually have no idea how they got there. There have also been instances where people go hiking there all super duper happy, and then when they're done they're super depressed, they're
Mhm.
suicidal, they feel lonely. And so it's a really ominous location in Japan, and actually has the highest suicide rates in the world, right next to the Golden Gate Bridge.
Yeah, that's right. And if you if you are alone walking near there, you're going to have a doctor come up to you. You're going to have somebody come up to you and go, "Are you feeling okay? Do you need to talk to somebody?" No, I'm just walking. It's got that kind of reputation. I mean, they have assistants available to you because when you have that many suicides at a location, like you said, outside of the Golden Gate Bridge, there isn't another place in the world like this. Um,
Mhm.
the images of the forest and the sounds that are there, all of this is part of the lore behind this forest. But because of that, it seems, and I don't want to sound morose, and if somebody is feeling strange or they're having strange thoughts, go and talk to somebody and get some help. But in Japan, it just seems that once you go down that road, this is where everybody goes to go and do this. This image of these shoes, that's just, oh man, that's sad.
It is, and it's believed that while there might only be about 100 suicides per year, those are the bodies that are found. There's also a handful of them that are not, that have never been found. So the statistics on this location is a bit difficult, but it gives you a range of about 100 a year. And there have been psychiatrists that have looked into this location and have spoken to the survivors, those that attempted to end their life but survived for whatever reason. And it's believed by one psychiatrist in particular, and I have his name and right here, Dr. Yoshitomo Takahashi. And he states that from the people that he's interviewed, they believe that they would be able to die successfully without being noticed. But he also mentioned that the mainstream media and these types of reports have played a big role in the fascination of this location as well, because, Jimmy, as we both mentioned, this location has the highest suicide rates in the entire world, aside from the Golden Gate Bridge. So,
Mhm.
of course, you're going to attract a lot of media attention. And it is because of that, there have been more sightings of people going in and not coming out. That's why there are teams that go one or two times a year to search for people.
Yeah, I don't believe. I mean, somebody can fact check me on this, but I don't think you're allowed to walk in there alone. I don't think that's allowed.
There, to my knowledge, there's only signs that warn people about the things that have happened to consider your family and your children. There are signs that
Right.
literally say that right
Yes.
at the entrance. But
Yes.
there's even been stories of hearing screams in the forest. One in particular, actually, there were two women that entered the forest. Their names are anonymous, but they mentioned that when they were going through, they just kept hearing this blood curdling scream. And as they continue to walk in looking for this woman that they're assuming is in distress, what they find instead is a lady hanging from a tree that has been deceased for quite some time. And then there's also been ghost sightings by people that have entered that have seen just strange apparitions,
Mm.
sometimes just floating certain types of limbs, how it be the head or the arm or sometimes the legs. And it's a very scary place. I think that while I'm interested in the paranormal and doing investigations, this might be one of the few locations that I wouldn't necessarily go to unless I had done significant more research and be surrounded by a group of people as well, because this is a really scary place that people don't necessarily expect to go into and then have these very sad and depressing feelings afterward. So if I was like, if I had like a film team with me, then like maybe I would go. But by myself, I would say it's a big no no.
It's just sad. Just sad. It's just sad. And there, I haven't been to Japan. I haven't been to this forest. But the reputation now behind the Golden Gate Bridge, it was about a year and a half ago. I drove across, right, and it had been a while since I have driven across the Golden Gate Bridge, and I'm going to say this: we got to move on. That when you see it in pictures and stuff, it looks much bigger than it actually is. The Golden Gate Bridge isn't that big. You drive across it, um, I don't know, 30 seconds. It's not very long. The next thing you know, you're over. It's not very high. It's none of that. But here's the thing. When I drove across the bridge, I was literally overtaken with the thoughts of who's walking on the bridge, who and why. Now it's a tourist thing and it's big and it's all of that, but it's the reputation behind it. So when you drive across, it enters your mind, and what is in the mind of these pedestrians that are on the bridge. It's a weird sensation. It's a really trippy thing to go through, and I couldn't get it out. I couldn't get it out of my head. I just couldn't. And you're looking at people on both sides. It was so anyway. Anyway, okay. Before we run out of time,
Well, no, that's one thing I do want to mention about this forest before we continue. And Zen Buddhist temples in Japan. I've looked into some of like the references about the forest from like temple abbots and stuff, and they see it as being infested with hungry ghosts and
Mhm.
souls that just can't move on. Um, so I think that is a really interesting aspect of it. While we do see ghosts, people see ghosts now, looking at it from this Zen Buddhist perspective as well, it's pretty odd.
Well,
And Kelly says, does anyone know how long this has been occurring? I think so the record started in the 1950s, but I'm assuming it's gone way before that.
there are report after report after report after report of people that have gone into the forest because of its reputation that come out saying it's full of ghosts. The ghosts are everywhere. The spirits are everywhere. You can see them. You can feel them. The forests are completely haunted. So I did a lot of reading about Suicide Forest, and like I said, it just leaves me sad. It just leaves me.
Yeah.
It's just a sad feeling that I get.
It is. Well, let's move on to our last case before we end today's show. Jimmy, which one are we going to cover?
Which we're doing Lizzie Borden.
That's right.
Yeah, we're gonna do Lizzie Borden. I did. I think I did. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. I think I did a ghost hunt at the Lizzie Borden house.
Did you?
Yeah, a virtual one.
Oh, how does a virtual ghost hunt work?
I was the host. And we did it online. We had cameras, and I did it remotely. I believe, right? Everybody, I did the Lizzie Borden house. Too many things, but I'm pretty sure. At least it's a pretty fond memory. I think that I did it. I think that I did the Lizzie Borden house, right? I think I did. I did.
Well, with this case, there's a very famous nursery rhyme, and
mm,
it goes, Lizzie Borden took an axe and gave her mother 40 whacks. When she saw what she had done, she gave her father 41. Andrew Borden is now dead. Lizzie hit him on the head. Up in heaven, he will sing. On the gallows, she will swing. So, this nursery rhyme is a result of a double homicide in which young Lizzie Borden was accused of murder in 1892 in Fall River, Massachusetts, but actually the Bordens received only 29 whacks. But this rhyme, it just sounds so much better with 40 and 41, right? Making it 81 in total, but that wasn't actually the case. So this is a pretty famous story. Um, but while I did know the basics of it, I didn't actually know it in detail. And it's a pretty gruesome one, and it is still unsolved. So Lizzie was she went to trial. So many thought she was guilty. Evidence kind of sort of went against that ish, and she was able to walk out freely. But it's believed that that Lizzie Borden's house is haunted. You can see things move, you can see orbs, you can see apparitions, um, due to the several murders that took place in this home.
it the facts are the facts. Okay, the facts are the facts. We are talking about a brutal multiple homicide done with an axe, a trial, and it's just beyond comprehension. It's the entire situation is beyond comprehension. The Borden family, I believe that after all of this, nobody stayed in the house. They went elsewhere, and yeah, it's haunted.
It's a pretty freaky place, but this was one that I would love to go to. If you look at the interior, it is a lot on the eyes, dealing with a lot of different wallpaper and just print on the rugs. And while it was very posh for the time period, it makes my eyes hurt a little bit.
Would you before we get out of here, let me ask you this: Would you spend the night in one of the bedrooms
Yeah, it
where the
would.
murders take place?
Yeah, it'd be cool.
Would you really? See, I wouldn't.
I think I would go to almost any paranormal location aside from the suicide forest in Japan because that one is just so extreme. But
Mhm.
aside from that, a location like this is pretty interesting. Along with the encounters that have taken place there, really are only dealing with hearing footsteps and laughter and just a few things moving. But to my understanding, there no one's actually felt any type of pain in any way or been inflicted with pain. So I don't think it's like a too much of a scary place, even though it is pretty darn haunted. It is open to the public. It is it's a bed and breakfast, right, Jimmy? Is it?
I know that you can rent it out. You know,
Yeah. So and
it's a big tourist place,
yeah.
and I've got many friends, many friends. Why not just talk to you yesterday that have spent the night here?
And
Um,
not all of them encounter something.
not all of them have. No, that is true. But that isn't to say that some haven't. Some have. I think it's calmer than most places, but my thing is, Christina. I'm saying this. I don't know if it's empathy or what I'm trying to project here, but I don't. I picture what went on there before, right? And that I can't. I just would not be comfortable. I just me personally, I wouldn't dig it. That's one of the reasons why I have issues with mental hospitals in general, jails, prisons. When you think about the history of what has gone down there in the past, this plays back in my mind. And so that's it. That's it. I don't want to sound like a wuss. I don't want to sound wussy. Maybe I would. I don't know. I mean, I've had so many friends that have said, "Yeah, man, nothing. I was there all night. Nothing happened. I spent 3 nights there. Nothing happened. We were there spent all this money on film crews. Nothing happened." I've heard this. Yes, I have.
Well, to look into the details on this case, it's really interesting. The trials are pretty spectacular as well. If you do want to look into that, that goes into more detail than what we'll be covering today, as we are practically out of time. We weren't able to cover everything, but it goes to show that we live in a very mysterious planet and there's a lot of strange things that happen, and there are so many locations across the globe that are totally haunted. Totally.
Christina, behave and be well. Another great broadcast. Congratulations on 20K. Congratulations
Yeah.
on 2023. Lots of twos in the congratulations for you today. Thank you so much. I got a show to do tonight, and I don't know what I'm doing. But I'll see everybody there. I have a guest. I have two guests that were booked for tonight. One is delayed in traveling, coming back from Thanksgiving. The other went through something so, and it still may happen. So I can't even tell you what it was because I want it to be a surprise if we have him on the show tonight. Had a very dramatic day today, like worldwide media crazy thing. And so now that may be, so I don't know. I just may do an AMA tonight. I may have a special guest stop in. I might end up having two. I don't know. But that's what's great about doing my own thing. Yeah.
I love that
Yeah.
mystery on
Yeah.
Fade to
Yeah.
Black. So
We'll see.
for
We'll see.
for those listening and watching, make sure to jump over to his channel and check out what's going to happen because we're all ready to know.
I'll see
Bye,
you.
Jimmy.
See you.
Oh, no, that's me. Okay, welcome to the end of the show. I want to say thank you for everyone watching this live. Thank you to all my incredible moderators, super chats, super stickers, YouTube members, and Patreon subscribers. I simply could not do this without you. Out of all the cases that we covered today, which one was your favorite? I think for myself, the one in Italy, the Death Island in Italy is pretty freaky. I've never heard that story before. It was totally new to me, and I'd go visit it if I wasn't prosecuted for trespassing, yeah, I would go. It sounds like fun. Also, Italy's a very pretty place. You got the best food, right? Aside from Japan, I would love to go to Japan and eat their food as well. Oh, delicious. But I would not go to that forest, the suicide forest, because it is a little bit too dark for me. But for you, which case was your favorite? Make sure to like this video before you head out. I will see you all tomorrow on Weekly Strange News at 3 p.m. PST. We're going to cover a lot of strange news and mysterious headlines from around the world. You don't want to miss it. It is a really fun show and surprisingly the most popular on this channel. You guys love hearing strange news, and I love it too. Well, that is it for today's show. I'll see you tomorrow. Be safe, and remember, keep your eyes on the skies.